Okay, so welcome to the 2012 GSU Executive Candidate Debates. We are beginning with the internal commissioner debates, so I would like you two to both introduce yourselves to the audience and, of course, the camera. Starting with you.
My name is Achire, and I'm a fourth-year PhD student in the Department of Immunology.
Hello folks, my name is Brad Egoy. I'm a first-year master's student in the History of Education program.
Hey, thank you. So first we're going to begin with, like I said, with the internal commissioner. So the internal commissioner is responsible in part for the functioning of the GSU council, especially in particular for signing minutes. Sometimes they actually have to chair the council itself. What will you do in addition to the orientation for GSU representatives to ensure that the GSU Council can operate effectively? With you.
Okay. Well, I think that it's very important. So GSU reps have a very important job in letting the students in the various departments know what's going on at the GSU. So I plan on working very closely with the GSU reps to ensure that they are doing their job. So I would like to mandate the GSU reps to present 5 to 10 minutes, to have a 5 to 10 minute PowerPoint presentation at all the orientations in the various graduate departments, talking about the GSU to ensure that, very early on, students know what's going on at the GSU. I would also like to receive a monthly report from the GSU reps, very brief, just to list what it is that their course unions have been doing that month, so that we can keep track of the course unions and make sure that they are doing their job in providing services for their students.
Thank you. And Brad, would you like to say?
Well, I think the first thing that I would do is to first, in that orientation session, in getting people involved from their course unions, first I want to give them a very comfortable atmosphere to get involved within the union. And how would I do that? Well, firstly, I would get them involved in the basic mechanisms of council, and that's the rules of order, the understandings of the overall mechanisms of the union itself. That is the first point. Secondly, we would move simply to, instead of getting them to create presentations of any sort, it would be a matter of working with them to develop something for presentation style to actually be customized towards what their course union needs to know and what they are looking for right now from the union, and both that adjust to their size as a course union and to what they already know as representatives. Furthermore, I really believe that we need to give these representatives access to communication. And I don't just mean, physical communication. I mean to give them clear channels to access already existent communication such as the digest, but to help them through new social media, such as a Twitter feed, or clear access to Facebook, and clear communications policy within the union that we can use to help these folks in the representative roles. Otherwise, I think that's pretty much it. But if we create a clear communication structure overall, we can certainly allow for these folks to be better equipped to do their jobs, and that is what I hope to do.
Thank you. So I'm going to first allow you to have a rebuttal to that, if you do have one, and then I'll open it up to the floor for any questions related to the subject of the GSU Council. Would you have a rebuttal?
No, I don't.
Okay. Thank you. So I'll open it up. Do we have any questions from the audience? I'll start with you.
So wait, are these questions supposed to be on the topics they were just talking about? Or?
Yes, on the subject. We're going to be, right now the subject topic is kind of the GSU Council and how it functions, because that is kind of a very important feature of the internal commissioner, especially since they're partially responsible for the minutes of council. It's one of their tasks outlined under their tasks that they're supposed to do, which is outlined in policy and on the elections website as well. Any questions? Yes, Claire?
I'm not sure this one. Anyway,
Can you speak up?
Yeah. In the past, a lot of the heads of course unions that I've spoken to have said that they found it very difficult to experience frustration with dealing with the graduate student union. So I'm wondering how you would sort of alleviate that frustration, or maybe explain why that is and what you would bring to that.
So I'm going to let Brad speak first.
All right, certainly. Well, I mean, I think first is a matter of simply attitude and how you approach these kinds of matters. You know, in my previous work at another student in Newfoundland, where I'm from, I always had the policy of, as an executive, of sitting down with folks and making a welcoming, opening atmosphere. But beyond that, I mean, I think that we need to, again, create clear communication channels and clear methods in which that people know, firstly, how to report, who to report to, how to actually get information effectively. And while this information is within the course union handbooks, we need to be always aware of these sorts of frustrations because they come up in any organization, particularly one of this size. You know, with a relatively decentralized kind of structure that we have within our union, communication issues and sites of frustration can build up anywhere within that structure. So we just have to be far more careful and be prepared to, you know, deal with these things as they come and be as open, welcoming, and prepared.
India?
I think that it's very important for the GSU to know what the concerns of the course unions and the students are. So one thing that I would like to see happen is to have a survey. So I envision having 2 surveys, one in September and one in January, that gives the breakdown of the GSU fee. So this is how much money is going to GSU, this is how much money is going to, you know, downtown legal services, women's center, bike chain, etc. And ask students, you know, are you happy with this breakdown? Is there something else that you would like to see? And list all the GSU services and ask, you know, do you know about the service? Do you use the service? What else would you like to see? And also allow students, you know, just to leave their general comments about, you know, what it is that they want from the GSU. So I think that would allow the GSU to better be able to represent what it is that students actually want, what their priorities are. Because maybe many course unions are frustrated with what the GSU is doing because they're not representing, you know, the everyday grad life struggles. So, and of course you need to have an incentive to fill out a survey. So, I don't know, if the students fill out a survey, then they enter a raffle to win a Metro Pass or something like that, you know. Just to give students an incentive to fill out the survey and for the GSU to know what should be on our agenda.
Okay, we're about 10 minutes into the debate, and so I'm going to have to start enforcing you have 2 minutes for a statement and you'll have 30 seconds for a rebuttal, because fortunately U-turn, Simon does have to present and he does have to go by 7 and he informed me about that conflict, and so I do intend fully to enforce that. But you have a question, so please ask.
Yeah, so are other incumbents on the GSU? No? Okay, so, well, I guess I'm just wondering, because, I mean, there's a fairly low turnout at this debate, I mean, let's be honest, and my perception as a first-year grad student has been that the GSU exists as an entity unto itself, kind of like, we don't hear much from them. I don't think they ever hear from us as students or something. I mean, that's my impression, right? So, like, I'm very curious if, like, a survey, that seems like I mean, to me, that is just like, I just don't understand, like, if I was given that email, fill out the survey, I would delete it. I mean, honestly, because I don't have a connection with GSU, like, I don't see why I should even, give a shit, give it whatever about it, you know what I mean? So, I'm curious what you think about that, like, if you think like a survey is a real solution or something, because I think there's such like a wide disconnect right now that like, that something bigger needs to be done maybe.
So 1 minute for rebuttal. So 1 minute for rebuttal?
So I agree with you. I think that there is a huge disconnect. So only 1% of grad students actually vote at these elections. So if you consider there's around 17,000 grad students, 150 to around 200 grad students actually vote. So I do agree with you. There's a big disconnect, and that is something that I do want to work on as internal commissioner, and I do have some ideas regarding that. So the weekly digest emails that we get, most students just delete those right away. So I think the trick is trying to get students to open up those emails. So, I mean, one simple idea I have is instead of sending that email once a week, send it twice a week. Because the more you see something, the more likely you are to open it. I also have
Okay, I'm going to have to cut you off because that's about 1
Can I
minute.
respond to that one as well?
And I'll give you 30, since that was kind of more directed at her, I'll give you about 30 seconds for rebuttal.
Personally, I feel that there is a need to be physically present. You know, I understand the value in a survey and the value in those sorts of communication methods, and frankly, I was advocating for social media earlier, but I want to have it so that the communications are open enough so that if the course union has a problem or has a question about the GSU and they want me present, I will be there. I will be physically at their meetings. I will meet with them whenever possible and whenever I can. I'm the type of person that I work 24 hours, it doesn't stop. I'm always on the clock.
Okay, I'm going to have to cut you off there.
Always be there.
But thank you for your passionate response. And actually that does partially cover the next question I had, which was about opening and improving communication between grad students, which is one of the, which I would think, and based on kind of what the objectives of the internal commissioner would actually fall under their portfolio. So now we're going to take a little bit of, we're going to actually ask a question close to that. And so what is your stance on improving relations between the GSU and the course unions? And what kind of specific actions will you take to ensure that you can actually communicate not only with the GSU reps, but also the course president? And so Brad, I'm going to let you speak for 2 minutes.
Well, I mean, as the internal commissioner is the person who is involved in gathering the course union presidents together for the initial dinner and improvement, I mean, that would be the time to obviously speak to folks and begin to network and build connections, because that is the most important thing about this sort of position. In my previous work in Newfoundland, I've been involved in student union. I worked for 4 years there, and that was something I always valued, building clear networks with people across campus. And to actually do that in this case, I want to, as I mentioned before, it's to actually build policy, firstly, clear communications policy, and to work with staff to do so, and to actually be present at meetings, to actually be physically there. It's lovely to send an email, it's lovely to work with social media, but to actually be a presence throughout campus, that is what I plan to do.
Thank you. And you guys, Sarah?
I agree with that. I think there definitely needs to be open communication with not just the GSU reps, but also the course union as well. I would always be available for anything that anyone in any course union, any issue that they have. It might also help to receive monthly reports as well from the course unions, telling me, this is what they're happy with, this is what they're not happy with, changes that they want to see, what are they doing, etc. So I also work very hard.
Thank you. I'm going to let this gentleman ask the question first.
So, I mean, you guys both seem to agree that you need to be open and communication and all that, but why should I vote for one of you versus the other?
I would say one advantage that I might have over Brad is that I have been at this university for close to 8 years. So, and 4 of those years have been spent in grad school. So I do feel that maybe I'm more connected with the average student's sentiment here at U of T. Also, I am part of a very experienced slate. So Nikita, who's also running with me as part of the grad voice team, he's been an exec for the last 2 years, and Jason, he's an exec at large. So we do have experience on our team as well.
And Brett?
And while I deeply respect the experience of your team, I would say firstly this. As a student who's just recently entered the university, as someone who's just came in, I understand how absolutely disconnected one can feel at the University of Toronto, and how deeply disconnected one can feel with the union, and how deeply disconnected we can feel from each other. And frankly, you know, speaking about experience, I mean, I know I'm relatively new to the University of Toronto, but I'm a person who has spent several years in the student movement in Newfoundland, building networks with folks there, and learning how to do it right, and learning how to do it well. And that is what I commit to do.
Okay, I'm going to have to cut you off there. Sorry, Brad. I'm sorry, I'm going to also have to cut off questions because we're almost out of time, and I still have 2 very important things which need to be addressed. That do fall under the portfolio of the internal commissioner. And so the internal commissioner, along with typically the external commissioner, do work with the levy groups, which right now include Bike Chain and OPERG are kind of the 2 main ones. I think the Trans Center for Women, Trans and Women's Center as well. As I've asked the external commissioners before, and so I'll give you about 1.5 minutes to rebut to this, to answer this. How do you feel that the approach needs to be taken when dealing with these levy groups? And what kind of approach would you want to take with them? Achire?
So I had no idea that $5 of my money is going to OPERG, or $1 to Bike Chain, or $1 to Women's Center, or $3 to the Downtown Legal Services. So I think, as I spoke before about having a survey like that, letting students know this is where your money is going, this is what these groups do, and you know, do you want that? Do you agree with that? Do you like the you know, do you like where your money is going? Also, I think the levy groups that we do have, I think it is very important for them to, on a monthly basis, in the weekly digest, you know, give a summary of what they did that month, and also make it very clear to students how it is that they can opt out of these levy groups if they do not, you know, support what they're doing. So I think it needs to be a very open communication between students and between the levy groups.
Okay, and Brad?
Personally, I feel that we need to treat the levy groups as partners. We need to treat them with respect. We need to treat them well. These folks do great work across this campus. I knew about many of them before I entered the University of Toronto because they have that much of a presence. So what would I want to do? Well, firstly, I want to, as I say, treat them with respect, negotiate with them fairly. Beyond that, I want to make sure that the very communication policies that I was talking about earlier, that I would like to draft with staff, and hopefully the new communication staff for the union, whomever that might be, to work together with those folks, to get their message out, to get the good work they do out. I want to make sure that it's clear that people know how to opt out, and all that sort of thing, but I want them to know what they do. I want them to know what we've invested in over years and years and what students have worked for. And that's what's important to me.
And that was within time very well. And you have a rebuttal to that?
No.
Okay, any questions from the floor? I'll be able to take 1 or 2 max. Yes?
I missed a bit at the beginning. Am I allowed to ask a follow-up to just one of the candidates?
Yes, you are.
Something they said, yeah?
Of course.
Well, I was just wondering, because the levy groups have been set by referendum, and the only way to de-levy is also through a referendum, I was wondering what the survey would serve as. So let's say you even did survey, a lot of people responded that they didn't like one levy group over the other. I mean, what would you do with that? Like, why should the energy of the union and the executive be going towards a survey like that?
Well, because the union does represent the students and what it is that the students want. So if you know, us on the GSU, if you do not agree with something, at the end of the day, that doesn't matter. It's what the students want. So if the students don't want their money going towards that, then we would have to take steps to change that.
Okay, I'll take one more question.
Can I speak to that one?
I'm sorry, that was kind of directed at Achire, and we're really running out of time, so I'll
That's
allow
okay.
this gentleman to ask one final question. I'm sorry.
So basically, this is maybe a little bit broader of a question, but so you've mentioned like experience and that as an issue, and so if you're looking to enact all of these changes into GSU, and your slate is running as like a bunch of people, I guess, who have been on GSU, why convince us, I guess, why you think things will actually change? If you think there are problems with it, why we should expect change? If you're running sort of the same group of people, I guess.
Okay, that's directed at you, so I'll let you answer. Sorry, Brad.
It's okay.
Well, I am running with experienced people that have applied for GSU, but I'm also running myself as well for internal commissioner. And like I said, I have 4 years of experience as a grad student here at UT, and the changes that I want to see here are changes that I will work for.
All right, thank you. And we're going to move on to our last question, which is still a very important question, particularly because it consumes a large part of the budget, is the GSU handbook. So I hope this will be very brief statements, so I'll give you 1 minute to answer this question. What are your plans for the GSU handbook? Brad, I'll let you answer.
Well, I mean, the handbook, I think, is a key use of our time and money. It is the point where people get the information, much of the information about the union and about our wider partners provincially and nationally. It is a point of contact, and a point of contact where we hand folks a physical book. Now that might not seem very important. That might seem like a waste of money. But you know what? It is a point where someone walks into the union office, or they interact with someone from the union itself. It's an opening point. It is a gateway for someone to be able to talk about the union, to gain a greater understanding. And that interaction alone is worth more money than those books cost.
Fair enough, and your response to that?
So the GSU services that I have used the most over the last 4 years are definitely the GSU Volleyball League. So I am a captain for the GSU Volleyball League, and the handbook. So I find the handbook extremely useful. And I actually didn't know that many people do not use their handbook, because where I work in my lab, everyone uses their handbook. So I think that I definitely want to encourage the GSU reps to ensure that these handbooks are in every building that is associated with a department. And I would also like to encourage them to go actually door to door handing out handbooks, because students have access to the Student Savers card through the handbook. So I believe in the handbook.
Thank you. That was quite good. So quite good responses. Very different than my experience with the handbook. But so now I'll allow you both 1 minute for a closing statement. Achire, will you please go first?
Well, I would like you to consider voting me as your GSU internal. I ensure you that everything that I have said that I will work on, and not just saying things and then I won't go about doing them. So anything that I do say is what I will do, and please vote for me.
And Brad?
Well, folks, I mean, frankly, I want to say thank you for the time to speak before you all. And I just want to go through a few other things that we didn't get a chance to talk about. If I get elected, complete policy review. I want to ensure that we have a clear handbook for all of our policies and a complete way to understand those so that it can be carried forward for long in the future. I want to review our AODA responsibilities within this union and to make sure that we are living up to those as proper. I want to make sure that there are alternate uses of the gym space, from shared skill workshops, to ping pong, to the new sports league. I want to make sure that we can preserve our current relationships with all sorts of groups across campus.